Okay.
Great. So, Andrew, thanks for joining us. So, do you want to give us a brief introduction?
Okay, thanks for having me. Hello, my name is Andrew Moffat, and I work as PD lead, personal development lead at Excelsior in Birmingham. And until the last 2 years, I've taught. I taught year 5 last year and year 4 the year before at Green Meadow Primary School as part of Excelsior Mat. I'm also the author of No Outsiders resource. Well, I say author. I've written this resource called No Outsiders, which is about teaching children to be confident about who they are in preparation for life in modern Britain.
Brilliant. And I'm Ian. I'm the Managing Director at Reading Solutions UK. We provide a program called Reading Plus as the base of what we do, but we do a lot of other things as well. Our company ethos is to improve outcomes for young learners, however that looks. So that's what we want to do. We work with 1,000 schools nationwide, but we also put on things like international reading conferences and all sorts of little things we do as well to support teaching. So we've got the same outlook. So, Andrew, you just said you were started off as a teacher, moving through writing books. So do you want to delve a bit more into that? Just give us a bit more detail around that.
Yeah, so I started teaching in 1995, and I've never had a break. I've always been a teacher. I spent a lot of my career working in behaviour units, sort of PRUs, where children being excluded, and our job really was to reintegrate children back into mainstream education. And I think that's really where my sort of passion for inclusion came from, really, and my interest, really. You know, I worked with children who definitely felt like outsiders, and it's about how to make sure that no child feels like an outsider. So I did that for certainly for 17, 18 years, and then I think 2014 went back into mainstream. And I've really enjoyed working as the mainstream assistant head teacher, and then for the last couple of years as a class teacher. And I've got to say, I think the thing I'm most proud of actually is being a class teacher for the last 2 years. I've really enjoyed that. This year I'm out of class because No Outsiders has become so popular. I can't really hold down a class and do all my training. So for this year I'm out of class, but who knows what the future holds.
Brilliant. And so PRUs, I've worked with few PRUs myself from the outside, just trying to support them, but that must have been challenging. So what were the main problems that you encountered with the children and the main barriers to inclusion?
I would say confidence, self-esteem, sort of life experience. I mean, definitely deprivation and poverty played a part. There's lots of reasons, aren't there, really, why children feel like outsiders, and feel they don't belong. And it's really our job, as teachers, to make sure that every child knows they belong. But also as a gay man, growing up in the 80s, I definitely felt like an outsider. I didn't see any representation of what a gay person was, around me. There was Boy George and Larry Grayson and stuff, but I couldn't really relate to them. Well, I do love both of them now, but I couldn't relate to them then. So it's about showing children, look, there is difference around us. You haven't got to fit into one box. There are all kinds of differences around us, and you belong here. And you haven't got to tell me who you are. You can if you want to, but whoever you are, you belong here. I accept you, and I like you.
Brilliant. I love that. Off on a tangent. I said I'd go off on a tangent, but I'm a big fan of Bob Mortimer. He's one of my favourite comedians, and he talks about, in his book, he talks about Chris Rea. So as a lad, it's off tangent, but as a lad growing up in Middlesbrough, he didn't see anyone that had made it out of Middlesbrough, if you like, had progressed until he saw Chris Rea, and then he realised, he thought, oh, I can do that. And it's about seeing something in it, isn't it? It's good. And again, just taking it slightly back to what we do. We provide a reading program, but reading and giving kids opportunities underpins what we do. So we talk about windows and mirrors, and the mirrors are for children to be able to become engaged with reading. They need to see something in them in the text they're reading, culturally referenced texts. But then the windows are giving them the opportunity. So working in those situations, deprivation, children might not know what it's like to go for a picnic or really simple things like that. But if we can expose them to things like that through text, then it broadens the horizons. It gives them the encouragement to move through. So working together with things like this, there's a lot of work we can do with lots of people that will help support kids' education, and it's good. I love things like this, Andrew. So what is the No Outsiders program then?
So No Outsiders, the ethos behind it is that there are no outsiders here because everyone is welcome. So the phrase was coined by Desmond Tutu, actually, 2004. He said, I might not get this exactly right, but it was something like, there are no outsiders, everyone's an insider, regardless of, he definitely said, regardless of their gender, their color, their sexuality, and that's where the phrase comes from. So I use picture books because for a few reasons, really. First of all, because I like picture books. I like hanging a lesson on a picture book. Also, I think it makes it accessible for teachers. I grew up, when I was teaching, I grew up in the era of SEAL. I don't know if teachers listen to this remember SEAL. It was like social and emotional aspects of learning. There was this huge orange box. It was massive with like about 50 pamphlets in it, and it said, do a lesson about feeling proud. It's like, well, based on what? You know, it was very, I loved the aims of SEAL, and the objectives were really good, but practically I found it very cumbersome. I found it very hard to teach from. So I used those sort of objectives from SEAL, which is about social and emotional, aspects of learning, and but I narrowed it down to what use this book, use this picture book, it's a great story, but then link it into the objective, so, and within that we talk about equality and belonging and the Equality Act, and we make sure that you can't pick and choose bits of your Equality Act that you approve of and that you don't approve of, that you like or that you don't like. So you can't miss out disability, and you also can't miss out gender reassignment or LGBT. So Equality is very useful, basically, and I based No Outsiders on the Equality Act so that I could say, this is British law, we've got to find ways to talk about it. So I use picture books and I use images for assemblies as well, and the aim really is to bring the world into the classroom and to talk about ways that we are different and ways that we are the same. And I used to say celebrate that, but I've stopped using the word celebrate. Actually, it's not even about celebrating, it's just about being. We are diverse, let's talk about it.
Brilliant, that's good stuff. So you deliver this as CPD to schools as well?
Yes, that's right, and that's why I'm doing 2 days a week in class at Green Meadow School. It's part of Excelsior Mat, and I'm employed full time by Excelsior Mat, but 3 days I go out to do No Outsiders training. So today is the end of the summer holidays. Tomorrow, 1st September, I'm in Ipswich. I'll do a day of training there. On Friday, I'm in Warrington. Monday, I'm in my school, and Tuesday, I'm in, I can't tell you where, I forgot, but I'm somewhere. The most popular training I do, though, is I do teaching days, where I go into a school and I say, right, get me into all of your classrooms, and I'll teach a half-hour No Outsiders lesson, to all your classes, so from EYFS up to Year 6, using a picture book in each one, a different picture book in each one. And the aim is to so that all the staff get to see their children engaging with No Outsiders, but also engaging with the language, so I can literally show you it. Here's how you do it, and then I'll lead them with lesson plans or follow-up work, and that's incredibly popular. And so right now I'm booked up till January 2023. We're doing those days 3 days a week.
Brilliant. Do you find you have to adapt it depending on the areas that you're in, or do you just follow a set process?
So some schools ask for particular books. So in the No Outsiders scheme, there are 42 picture books that I use. Some schools ask for particular ones. They want to focus on race, for example, or on LGBT, But often schools just want a general introduction, in which case I'll just do, whatever I fancy that week, really. The books are wonderful. I didn't write the books. They are, they're great. Michael Rosen's in there, Oliver Jeffers is in there. You know, there's lovely picture books, and you know, the lessons are joyful. Really, it's wonderful to be able to go into all these classrooms. I must have taught probably about 10,000 children over the last year doing this. Because when I go into a school, you know, if it's too formentary, you know, you can get round every class with 25-minute, half-hour sessions. It's just bam, 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 you know, and it leaves schools, you know, enthused and confident about a way forward.
That's brilliant. 10,000 children. That's amazing. So how do they, I suppose you've just answered the question I was going to ask there in terms of fitting into the curriculum as well, because I know curriculum is tight, but I suppose if you're building it and as part of this, you can frame it in lots of different ways, so it is possible to get it into a curriculum.
Yes, so you teach it as part of literacy, as part of PSHE. I mean, the actual scheme, there's 42 lesson plans altogether, because there's one lesson plan per picture book. You know, across so there's actually only 6 lesson plans per year. So what's that? One every half term. So it's not like, you know, it's not an onerous scheme. But what I say to schools is that you've got to follow a track with assemblies. So I do an assembly picture blog, and I add a new assembly every week. And the assemblies are a way of backing up this and making it real, backing up the ethos. So this week, for example, the assembly, well, it's about coming back to school. So I've got a picture of a skydive. It's the world record holder for the biggest skydive. Everyone gets into a flower formation. 2015, I think 132 people got into this formation. So I talk about, do you think anyone in that group, you know, first of all, it's an international team. What does international mean? Do you think anyone's saying, right, only white people holding my hand, only white people? Is anyone saying only women, only women? No, as they fall through the sky, you don't care whose hand you're holding, you know. Only Christians holding my hand? No, that's not happening, is it? You know, there's also there was one person you can see outside the formation. Now, hopefully, we'll never know. Did they make it? Did they make the formation? What do you think people that are shouting to this person? Are they shouting, you haven't made it? Or are they shouting, come on, come and grab my hand? You know, so it's all about working together. And because they work together, different religion, different race, you know, sexuality, you know, to work together, they made the world record, the world record on their 13th time, I may add. You know, why didn't they give up after the 10th time? They must have thought it's not going to work. You know, we can't do it. They didn't give up. They kept going. So that's a good example of an assembly, you know, that you do every week. In Green Meadow, we do 2 outside assemblies a week, in fact. One as I do them in the hall, and then I write one for the teachers, and they do one you know, in their classroom. We link it into Oracy as well.
Cool. And then following on from that, how does that get represented when you take it to the home as well? You got backup materials for parents, guardians to support the children?
Yeah. So we have at my school, we have twice a year parents are invited into a No Outsiders open lesson. And again, I've written another scheme for this. So, but you can just use your normal No Outsiders lessons. The aim is really to show that look, here's what it's about. We've also, because actually a charity, we've also just produced these No Outsiders parent guides, which I give out free if people email the website. Just ask for postage. And in these guides, they've got all the books that we're using, and they've got, you know, bits about the Equality Act. They've also got at the back questions that children have asked sometimes, you know, that parents might find tricky to answer. So it's all about, you know, what the aim is really to have the same dialogues going on in school and in home, followed up in home. The other thing we do at my school, we have a newsletter. A lot of schools have newsletters, you know, and at the bottom of our newsletter every week, we show the No Outsiders assemblies for the week, and we say, talk to your children about these assemblies, ask them what they're about, because they're just the pictures, and then we always link it to British values. So ask your child what they're about and which British value is linked to these pictures. All these pictures, by the way, are freely available on the No Outsiders website. There's no subscription or registration that anyone can get them.
Brilliant. That's good. So around that, then, what's the impact you've seen in schools because of your program?
I think there's been huge impact. Well, first of all, when I first started doing it, 2015, at my school in Birmingham, part of Excelsior again, we had Ofsted, got outstanding, and night size was a key strength of that. And I've had 2 Ofsteds since at different schools, part of Excelsior, and in both of them, the night siders have been mentioned. And I get tweets, messages from schools across the country, saying we've had Ofsted and they've mentioned no outsiders. But it's not just about Ofsted, is it? It's about knowing, it's about seeing your children becoming confident about holding themselves, and about speaking and knowing who they are, and knowing they belong. So we're doing lots of work with Oracy and Voice 21, and it's really about children learning how to articulate, and how to express yourself. And so that's a great way to see impact. When I think about the children in my current school, 2 years ago, and then think about them now, and the way that they speak, and the way that we have debates, and I can think in assemblies, I start every assembly, by pictures behind me, and I say, right, what do we see here? What's the picture about? What's the story here? Who's going to start us off? And children guess, and they disagree and agree respectfully, and we have discussions, and we had a great discussion a couple of months ago about there was somebody about Pride in London, and the picture was a huge rainbow flag with tens of thousands of people. And so we talked about why do we need Pride? Do we need Pride? What's it for? Do you have to be LGBT plus to go to Pride? One child mentioned, we had a great discussion about it. They said, I can't remember how it came up, but they said, because you have to have a partner to be gay. If you have a husband and then he dies, you're not gay anymore. And that's a great, interesting discussion, isn't it? That's fascinating for children to talk about, because these ideas, children have got them in their heads, and we need to talk about these things. So these pictures, give us a way in, really, to do that.
It must be amazing for you to see impact like that. It's really good. Takeaways for the audience then. So what books on culture and diversity would you recommend, Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3, if you've got any?
So I don't use issue-based books. I always use stories. So I happen to have a couple here that I brought down. So this is a new one. I haven't done a plan for this yet, but I will do in a few weeks. I love this one, Key Stage 1, Bathe the Cat. And what I like about this one is it's quite a new book. It's about a family. Nan's coming to the family, and they make a list on the fridge: mop the floor, scrub the dishes, vacuum the rug, feed the fishes, mow the lawn, sweep the mat, feed the baby, bathe the cat. And then the cat doesn't want to be bathed, so the cat messes all of the things up. So the family get confused. So feed the floor, rock the rug, scrub the fishes, vacuum the lawn, bathe the mat, mop the baby, and dad will mow the cat. And basically they keep on getting mixed up, and in the end they sort it out, and Nan comes. But you see, even though I never mention it in the story, but look at that family. You got 2 men holding hands. They also have different skin. The children all have different skin as well. And so it's a great story where children see themselves, but also see diversity and difference without hammering them with it, basically. So that's the sort of thing that I really like. This book is my favorite new book. I do a newsletter called Agents of Hope. And the purpose of this letter, I started in lockdown, and the aim was to give schools resources to really talk about hope and communication during lockdown. My argument was that teachers have to be the agents of hope for children right now, because children are losing their faith in adults knowing what to do. So I've carried on this newsletter. I do it once a month. I have 4 Sunday pictures And also I show new books that I like as well. I've actually set this one out this morning, actually. There's some out this morning. But this book is in it, which I found out over summer, and it's just brilliant, because it's about getting names right, which is great for the start of term, isn't it? So Nefertiti goes to school, and a teacher says, "Oh, I'll call you Nef." So I can't say this, I'll call you Nef. And she does it in a friendly way, and she thinks that, this is okay. But every time she hears the name Nefertiti sort of shrinks into herself, and she doesn't feel able to sort of join in. And in the end, basically, there's a bit here where she feels really small. You can see she's in New York, she feels really small. She tried not to panic, and she remembered her dad's words, "You are Nefertiti." "Neff, where's Neff?" Miss Potts shouted above the din, and they all find her really small on the drummer's stool. And basically, Nefertiti explains to her friend what Miss Potts needs to do to make her grow big again. She says she'll grow bigger if you call her by her real name, Priya says. "Oh, goodness, I don't remember her real name," said Miss Potts. "It's easy," says Kais. "Nefertiti, like the Egyptian queen. Let me try, Nefertiti." And then they practice, and then she basically starts to go again. So again, just lovely, lovely book. Again, diversity, difference, but a good lesson in there. In the lesson plan, I've linked to a really nice bit of footage on YouTube where, for laughs, a teacher reads a register and gets all the names wrong. So she calls like Hunter, Hunter, and she calls, I can't remember how she's a bit, everyone laughs. Now, it is funny to hear it, but she's actually doing it for a reason. She's doing it to show this is what it feels like if you have a name that is different. Everyone's on the same playing field here. What do we need to do to make sure, that everyone knows they belong? We use proper names. It's a simple message, isn't it? It's about belonging. I've just got a couple for secondary schools as well that I really like. This one, 8 Pieces of Silver, by Patrice Lawrence. I really, really enjoyed that. And another one here, That Asian Kid, by Savita Kalhan. Again, just I get my books from Letterbox Library. It's an independent bookstore in London, and they're just great at recommending books, diverse books, and books with diverse authors as well.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. When we do our conferences, we do various things, but one of the things that goes down really well is people recommending books, because teachers are always on the lookout for good books. So advice like that, it's worth its weight in gold. Okay, so what other ways can teachers and schools encourage culture, diversity, and inclusivity?
So I think it's just about your ethos, really. I mean, no outsiders works because no child, every child understands what it feels to be left out, and no one wants to be left out. So if you're teaching children, no one's left out here. It's very, very powerful. And it's a phrase that children key into. But there's other ways to do it. Really, it's just about making sure that you've got an ethos that is strong and that everyone understands. There's an interesting line in the current Ofsted guidance about Teaching Equality Act, and they say that, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's something like, it's not good enough just to have a policy that says everyone is welcome. You've got to be living it, basically. You've got to know that whenever you walk around school, if you ask a child, if you ask a child in reception in my school, what's no outsiders mean, they will say we play together, or everyone's welcome. And in year 6, they would hopefully say something like, well, it's about equality, it's about British values, about tolerating difference, and or are we quoting bits from British values. But it starts with we play together.
I suppose it's easy sometimes to pay lip service, isn't it? But you have to really buy into it, and it follows through the school from that point.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then talk about it all the time, and everyone's got to talk about it as well. It can't just be one teacher. Everyone's got to be talking about it. The dinner supervisors, everyone.
Yeah, that's good. And then following that through again, parents, guardians, it's getting them talking about it, isn't it? That's the key.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I'll not keep you too much longer now. So what are your hopes for the future? What's next for you?
Well, I've just got funding to do a national No Outsiders film. So I've done a couple of films in my school, which will be on the website soon. There's lovely films just showing children talking about equality and different diversity and showing picture books. But I really want to show, that this can work anywhere, really, across the UK. So I've been as far north as Newcastle. I haven't been further north than Newcastle at the moment. I've been as far south.
We're quite far north. There's not much past us.
But you can go further. And I've been as far south as the Isle of Wight. Actually, to be fair, I've talked in Rome. Actually, I didn't go to Rome myself, but I did a virtual one in Rome. But in terms of being somewhere, I've been to the Isle of Wight. So I want to make a film, that shows this happening all around the UK. That children, are confident about, the future where everyone belongs, really. So that's what I want to do. What I want to do. But I'm also looking forward to seeing how this year pans out. I've really enjoyed the last couple of years being a class teacher. I'm sort of slightly. I think I'm going to miss that. But I'll be getting to classes at least once a week.
Good, brilliant. And that's it, Andrew. That's all we've got. That was a really interesting conversation. Thank you very much for your time. Again, I keep on saying it, but it's great what you're doing.